Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Monica to introduce the next facilitator.
Thank you, James. So, welcome everyone to day 5 of Heal Yourself Through the Power of Consciousness. So, today I have 2 introductions to make. One is for the journal Nama. I hope all of us are aware of it, under the aegis of which we are having this conference. So, those of us who like to read and study words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo in the perspective of integral health, it's something which is very beautiful to have at your home. And I came in touch with Nama, I think 2-3 years ago, and it was a beautiful happening for me all by Mother's Day. And the articles are very practical implications of Mother and Sri Aurobindo's words. So those of us who are maybe new to Nama, and if they would like to subscribe, please connect with us through James, and it would be a beautiful addition to our sadhana. So that's it, and we have the speaker for today, Dr. Falguni Jani, and a few lines of introduction for Falguni Ji. She is an integral counselor, and her psychology-based approach is based on Sri Aurobindo's yoga psychology. The areas of her specialization are school counseling, adolescent issues, and also very interestingly, family conflict. I think when I was reading about her details, this really caught my attention. An area where all of us may need some help and counseling, family conflict. She is also an online facilitator with Sakar, where she facilitates a few courses. If those of us who are interested can get in touch. And she also conducts workshops on integral counseling. So over to you, Falguni Ji, and looking forward to this talk.
Namaskar. Good evening. Thank you, Monica, for the introduction. I'm happy to share with you my insights, my readings into Mother and Sri Aurobindo's way of helping us for self-healing. My topic today is understanding self-healing through the inner processes. So we will go into the details of the inner processes, but first I would like to say that let us understand the self, the complete self, as shown by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. And I begin with the description of the outer self. We are all aware of the outer self. This outer self is composed of our mind, our vital being, our life force, our body, and we know about it. We are aware about it. How? Through our senses. We are connected to the world through this outer self. Through our sense organs, we see the world. We hear the sounds. We smell beautiful fragrances. We can touch. So through our outer senses, we come into contact with the outer world. Now, we also have the inner being. And today we are going to understand the inner being in detail, because we want to understand the inner processes that can help us to heal ourselves, to understand ourselves in detail. So this inner nature has the inner mind, the inner vital, the inner physical. How do you understand the inner being? You can understand your inner being by understanding certain preferences, certain likes, certain dislikes. This inner being mostly determines our character. Like someone has a very noble character. Someone likes to be very generous and kind. Someone is very fond of beautiful flowers, likes to travel, somebody does not like, somebody loves pets, somebody does not. So there are certain characteristics which tell us the nature of our inner being. Our likes, our dislikes, our preferences, the different ways in which we interact with people. Sometimes we are aware, most of the time we are not aware of this inner being. And behind this inner being is the innermost being, our soul or our psychic. Now, the first question is, why do we need to understand the inner being and the inner processes? Why? Now, for healing, it is absolutely essential that we understand this inner being, because the mother says that an illness of the body is always the outer expression of some disorder, some disharmony in the inner being. The inner being gets disturbed first, and then the disorder is manifested in the body. In fact, she says it is a translation of the inner disorder. And so unless and until we reach our inner being, we understand its functions, we cannot completely cure ourselves. And that is why we have to understand the inner being, and there are many ways in which we can do that. So today we will understand what are the inner processes, how to do it, what are the instruments and the techniques, and what is the practice. So I will lead you towards all these steps in this talk today. So first I wanted to tell you the why part of it. Why do we need to understand? So first, as mother says, because the inner being's disharmony and disorder creates problems in the outer part. That is one reason. And Sherbindo says that a person lives a very superficial life with a very superficial consciousness and does not know what is happening inside. And sometimes the person is surprised, where do I get these feelings, these ideas, these impulses? There are certain imperatives that just spring from inside and you are not aware of it. And when we can go in the inner being, live in the inner consciousness, then we can understand. And when we can understand, then only we can control it. So, without this understanding, there is no control. And how does this understanding come? Now, we go to the what part of it. How do we do it? What can be done about it? Yes, we are not aware of the inner being. So what are the steps? The first step of trying to understand the inner being is to become conscious. We have to become conscious of our minds, that means our thoughts, our vitals, that means our emotions and desires and longings and cravings and preferences and likes and dislikes and the different dilemmas that pull us in all directions, the energies that we get. And we need to understand the functionings of our body, to be conscious of our body. There are many people who inadvertently drop things from their hands. There are many people who get hurt during the day. Why? Because they are not aware of the movements of the body, and they may just, bang themselves on the wall, loosely handle a cup of tea or a glass of water, drop it. So these small movements of the body we need to be aware of, as well as we need to be aware of the effects of our thoughts on the body, the effects of our vital nature on the body. Remember, the body is sometimes helpless when certain thoughts attack, there are negative thoughts come, certain feelings that are disturbing. And so when we want to heal ourselves, we first have to examine our mind, our vital, to understand in the different ways in which it reacts, the different ways in which it comes into contact with the world. And so, to become conscious is the first thing. Now, Mother has given us some details into being conscious of what and how. Now, to become conscious means to become aware. That we all know it. So, further we get the guidance that one must be conscious of all one's states and movements and the causes and influences that bring them about. So what we need to do first of all is we want to be conscious of our state. Now here I would like to say, what do I mean by state? You have to know what you are thinking and feeling in the moment. What is your state of consciousness? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you indifferent? Are you angry? Are you irritable? Are you nervous? Are you restless? You must understand the state of your consciousness. And what happens during these states of consciousness? What happens? What are the movements? What are the influences? When you are sad, what do you do? When you are angry, when you are nervous, what do you do? What happens in those states? Yesterday a client of mine was saying that today I have a bad day, yesterday I had a good day. Now I said, well, what is the difference between the two? Well, everything fell in place on the good day, and in the bad day, nothing is going right. So as I probed further, she said, well, in the morning, I had a bad news from my family. And though I did all my routine, in the background, that news was influencing all my actions. And everything went on not so well. So if one becomes conscious, we can stop our negative state of consciousness from being influenced in our activity. We can control it. So one very important message the Mother gives, that remember, we can master only what we are conscious of. So this is very important. If I'm not conscious of what I'm thinking, if I'm not conscious of what I'm feeling, how can I control it? If I'm not conscious about what I'm speaking, I'm not conscious about my words, I'm not conscious about the tone in which I speak, how can I control it? It is, like having a car with many features, many parts, but you don't know how to drive it properly. You know only very few functions. And when there is a problem, you don't know how to control your car. Exactly that is happening with ourselves. We don't know ourselves. We are not in control of it. First, we do not have the knowledge. Second, we are not conscious every moment. And third, because we are not conscious, we have no control. And so, instead of being the master of our movements, we are often just flinging here and there like a cork on the ocean, which is just flung here and there by the waves. We don't want to do that. We want to take charge of our life. We want to be in control. We want to understand where things come from and how can I stop myself from being in a negative state of mind, and I want to stop myself from feeling unwell. I want to have a sense of well-being at all times. I want to feel happy, peaceful, strong, enthusiastic at all times. But where do certain things come and then make me fall down? Why do I feel low sometimes? Why do I feel elated sometimes? Can I control my movements? So that is the reason why we are trying to understand that yes, it is possible. You must first become conscious of all the movements. You must practice silence. Give time to yourself. That is a must. And then another thing that we need, the second step is to become vigilant. Now, after becoming conscious, you need to be vigilant. Vigilance means to remain awake, on guard. And that vigilance requires one quality, a very important quality. Among the virtues, Mother has given number 1 to this virtue, and that is sincerity. Sincerity is one such virtue which really helps one to go forward in whatever task we take at hand. So if we want to begin this journey of knowing our inner being, understanding the inner processes, we must be sincere. And sincerity, in one quotation the Mother says that sincerity is not only our safeguard, our guide, but it is also a transforming power. Now this is very important. Sincerity can also bring a transforming power, and that is what we need. When one is sincere, when one makes efforts, the help of the divine is always there. Mother also says in one place that even if you fail 1,000 times, but if you are sincere, my help is always with you. That is very important. So, in order to understand ourselves, we have to be conscious and we have to be vigilant that we do not allow anything that disturbs us, anything that disturbs the harmony, the equilibrium, the balance in our mind, which means we have to be vigilant that our mind does not get agitated, can remain peaceful. We have to be vigilant that any emotional attack does not make us sad, nervous, angry, fearful. We have to be vigilant that our body remains healthy, that it can do all the functions that it is supposed to do, supply energy, strength, stamina, endure the different changes in the weather, not only the physical weather, but whatever goes on around. So all these things have to be maintained by us, by our vigilance. Now I will go towards the healing process. As I said earlier, that Mother says that illness is an indication of an inner disorder and disharmony. So now let us see how this disorder and disharmony occurs. First of all, let us take the mind. Now, what are the causes of mental disturbances? The causes of mental disturbances are, number 1, wrong thinking. Wrong means there is a tendency in many people to think of the worst case scenario. Excuse me. People would like to just say, what if this does not happen? What if I do not pass the exam? What if my plane does not land safely? What if the pandemic makes my health bad? What if, what that? So all the kind of negative thinking, the mother says it's wrong thinking. If you continue to think in that way, then your mind can never be peaceful. In one place, Sri Aurobindo says that doubt is like an acid which corrodes the being. So doubts are bad. Negative thinking, imagining negative thinking, thoughts, negative scenarios is wrong. So the one cause of mental disturbance is wrong thinking, and one should now be vigilant and not allow any wrong thoughts to enter. Second is fear. Fear is one of the things that makes one very disturbed. And Mother has said again that fear is like a magnet. It attracts the thing you fear. It's easy to understand. Now, most of the cases during this pandemic I have seen were spread through fear. The person could have avoided getting the illness, but because so many people were discussing, there was flooding of news and all that, and that makes a person fearful, and a fearful state is not a healthy state. I will come into the details soon. A fearful state is a very unhealthy state. Then another reason for mental disturbance is some memory, some from the past, the subconscious. The subconscious mind also has things inside which we are not aware of, and something may spring up unawares and disturb the peace of our mind. What can we do? Now I am giving you certain tools to make your mind strong. If the mind is disturbed, what you can use is, first of all, instead of your mind talking to you, you talk to the mind. That is conscious inner dialogue. And that conscious inner dialogue strengthens the willpower. Where you say, I will not think in the negative manner. I will remain positive. I will have constructive thoughts. I will banish fear. Now that I is a strong I that comes from the inner and not the outer superficial mind, which is restless. So when you talk to the mind, when you have this inner dialogue, then your willpower is strengthened. You decide what has to be thought or not thought. Mind is an instrument that receives thoughts from outside. It does not have its own original thoughts. But once you are on a guard, you do not allow the thoughts to enter. But for that, if you practice silence, then you know what is coming from outside. We know how well we guard our houses. We do not keep all our windows and doors open at all the time. We do not want unwanted visitors. We do not want any dust or storm or rain or anything, insects, birds enter our house. We don't do that. But we do not know how to protect our mind from unwanted intruder thoughts. Thoughts intrude. They come from various places. And it depends on the affinity that brings a particular group of thoughts to your mind. You see, there are in the mental world, in the universal mental, there are so many thoughts, but why a person has a particular group of thoughts, a particular thought entering? Because the person has an affinity towards that. Then they could be positive also. They could be nice, creative thoughts also. But it depends what you are attracting. So you remain peaceful, you remain free from negativity, you attract positive thoughts. So it is quite in our control. We are not helpless, but we have to believe that I have control, I can have control. So as I said, instead of your mind just bombarding thoughts, you talk to the mind. Say, I will not think this, I will only think in this way. Second tool that you can use is imagination. Imagine the best scenario. Imagine the best situation and believe in that. Mother has said sometimes that when you have a good thought, it goes out into the universe, a good thought, some kind thoughts towards somebody. You want to send some best wishes. You want to wish someone well who is unwell. You put a thought formation. And then she says, don't forget it. You nurture that thought formation. And that has power. Our imagination can have a great power. It is not a small thing. We must believe in that. And that has been experimented. I can give you one example of a person whose mother was not on good terms and not talking. So she read about this mother's instruction and she started floating thoughts about the mother and her talking, imagining themselves in the house, cooking together, eating together, going out together. She made a very beautiful formation of the thought with her mother. She offered that thought process to the mother, and then every day at some point of time she would enrich it, nurture it, nourish it, make it stronger. How can you make a thought formation stronger? By putting in your emotions also. These are not my guidelines. It's Mother has given us. You can nourish and nurture a very good thought formation with your emotions. And you just offer it. And then after a gap of 1.5 years, she got a call from her mother and now they are on the best of the terms. So this is possible. This is not a miracle. Of course, the grace of the divine is there, always behind everything that happens in the world. So have faith. The third thing that I'm telling you is we need faith. Faith in the process. Faith in what you are willing. Faith in what you are imagining. Now when we start using willpower, we human beings are actually using the powers that God has given us. You see, we have not yet used all the powers of the mind which we can. Somewhere Sri Aurobindo says that we are still mentalized animals, or our mind is, our vital, our physical is so much that belongs to the animal world, and our mind is helping the vital and the physical. It has not yet come into its own possession, into the possession of its own powers. So these are the powers which we do have, and we can use them. Now these are the tools: will, imagination, faith. And what practice you can do for the mind? The practice that you can do is fix a time daily to sit in silence and practice detachment. to learn to live within, detaching yourself from the outer self. Try to live within, observe yourself, nothing else is needed. Just observe the thoughts that come. Just observe whatever passes by. And then you can decide, after observation, the next step, I do not want these negative thoughts, I will only have positive thoughts. Just like you nurture a garden, you plant some roses, but along with the roses, weeds also grow up. So you have to look at the garden every day and pull out the weeds. Similarly, observe your thoughts and pull out the ones that do not help you in your progress, that do not help you to fulfill your highest aspiration. Now this exercise we must do. First, to write down what is my highest aspiration, what is my aim, and are my thoughts supporting my highest aspiration? If not, I cannot have them. So when you are planting a rose and want the rose to bloom, you will only put that which makes the rose bloom. Similarly, in order to fulfill your highest aspiration, you have to see to it that no negative thoughts come and disturb it. So for the mind, the tools are will, imagination, faith, and the practice is detachment through silence and watching over the thoughts, observing the thoughts, and gradually controlling the thoughts so that the negative thoughts, even if they enter, don't stay for a long time. You know, like unwanted guests. If you don't like the person who has come to your house, you stop paying attention. You ignore. So, you cannot fight negative thoughts. You can be indifferent, you can ignore, and they will leave your space. They will not enter. So, to make your mind happy and healthy, this practice is a must. Because one of the great culprits of disturbing our well-being is the mind. The second most influencing factor in our health and well-being is the vital being. Now let us see the causes of disappointment, causes of vital disturbances. How does our life energy, our vital get disturbed? Now, without the cooperation of the vital, we cannot do anything. The vital is like the fuel in the car. Your car may be very nice and expensive, but without petrol, it will not run. Similarly, we need energy at all times. Now, this vital gets disturbed. The energies get leaked out. We feel low. We feel sad. So, the different causes of vital disturbances are ambitions, disappointment, dissatisfaction, desires, unfulfilled wishes, and there are certain emotional reasons, emotional disputes, conflicts, differences of opinion with family, with friends, with spouse, with children, with employer. Now, things doesn't happen suddenly. Every one of us has disappointments and all that now and then. But if these continue to dwell in our vital, continue to dwell in ourselves, then what happens? In the long term, the consequences are depression, anxiety, stress. And these have to be addressed as soon as we can. And so, the major causes of mental disturbances and persons who seek the help of psychiatrists and counselors is because of the disturbance of the vital being. They just cannot come out of that. You know, the depression and depressive thoughts put a person in kind of a loop. They all the time think of themselves. This is one of the things that you can really check. Be vigilant. If you have most of the time thoughts about yourself, what about me? No one is helping me. I'm sad. No one cares for me. No one appreciates me. No one recognizes my efforts. I do so much for people, but I'm left out. Now when this I keeps on for a long time, then depression sets in. You do not want to meet people. You want to shut yourself in. You want to wallow in negative thoughts and negative emotions. And that is a very difficult spot. So, Mother has said that depression is nothing but the illness of the ego. So when ego, gets too full of itself, me, my, I, that is not a healthy state. So one has to come out of it. And then anxiety about everything. What will happen to me? What will happen to me in old age? Or what will happen to my children? Will they get settled? Or any such thing. Now the best exercise that we can do is to list down these anxieties, the little stress that we have, depressive thoughts that we have. We write them down and then we can see, do I need to keep them? Is it necessary? Or am I unnecessarily giving too much importance to them? So this practice is a must, that you must sit with yourself and do this exercise of analyzing your different feelings, different emotions, and establish harmony, establish peace in the vital. This is very essential, because once the vital is not cooperative, and Sri Aurobindo says that sometimes the vital goes on a strike, then the whole life gets haywire. It is very difficult. So the most essential thing in both these exercises, whether you are observing your thoughts or observing your feelings, as I said, every day sincerely you have to spare some time to self-examine. Like, since this is a self-healing process, I would say this is your time for self-diagnosis. Just like the doctor puts the stethoscopes at different parts of our body and listens to what the body says, we can do that with our awareness, with our consciousness. That what am I thinking? What am I feeling? And so to become aware of one's states of consciousness. After some time, one becomes very adept at knowing where the pointer of the consciousness is. At one place, Mother has said that you should locate your I, capital I. Where are you right now? Now when you go through these inner processes of understanding your mind, understanding your vital, you will gradually become aware of these different parts. You'll become aware that, well, today I'm too much in the mind, thinking too much, overthinking, overanalyzing, or criticizing. So all these are the habits of the mind. Sometimes you can feel that, well, today I'm getting too much mixed up in my vital being, too much of these ambitions and cravings and longings and preferences and disappointments and frustrations, or it could be positive also, enthusiasm, joy, a feeling of creativity, lots of energy. But then what I'm trying to say is that you should be able to know where the pointer of your I is. Is it in the mind? Is it in the vital? Because this is the first step. When you know that, and when you know the cause of the disturbance, then you can start offering it to the divine. I do not want it, dear Mother, please take it away. Or you reject it forcefully from your mind. You put your willpower and say, I do not want to think of it. So to establish harmony and peace in the vital, one can use a mantra, one can use music, and the best exercise is to immediately start with pranayama. Start breathing. If you start breathing consciously, peace will be established much faster. And with peace comes health. Peace is the basic foundation for all health, mental, vital, physical. Now we come to the body. Whenever the body is in pain, there are various reasons for pain, but whenever you have some pain in some part of the body, first thing that you can do and try is to again sit quietly and eliminate the mental factor. What I mean by is that, see that your mind is not linked with the pain. See that the mind does not get engaged with the pain. Let the pain be in the body. Cut off the mental factor. Cut off the mental connection. And bring your center of awareness in the heart. Try to invoke peace. Try to chant Om, Om Shanti. Try to be peaceful. And try to surrender that moment to the Divine Mother and ask for help. When can you get help? There also we have Mother's guidance. When you are peaceful, when you are in a state of receptivity, when you are open to her presence and force, you will get her grace, you will be receiving her grace. But what are the conditions? What are the conditions of receiving the grace? What are the conditions of receiving her force? There are two. You have to learn to remain passive, stillness and passivity. Learn to remain absolutely still without any movements, no subtle movements. Absolutely quiet in the mind, absolutely stable in the heart, absolutely in one comfortable posture. You have to sit still. The body directly receives help from the Divine when the body is still. And that, of course, comes by practice. And to practice to sit still, one can try every day. And this has also another great advantage. Stillness brings you back into the present moment. And Mother has said, the present moment is one of the most important moments. You must remain in the present moment. You have all the power. You can exercise all the choices that you want. The past no longer is there. And the future is just in our mind. We are imagining. So to remain present, we have to be still. Stillness and presence go together. If you want to practice stillness, come into the present moment. If you want to come into the present moment, remain still. And the best way to come out from the bombarding of thoughts, from incessant thoughts, from overthinking, start breathing consciously. When you start breathing consciously, no thoughts will invade. There will not be any disturbances, and even the vital disturbances, the emotional disturbances will gradually fade away. And for the body, one can do this. Another exercise one can do is to sit and observe which thoughts, which feelings are making certain muscles tense. You must have seen, and it is an experience, that whenever you have a thought or a feeling that is disturbing, your breathing pattern changes. You breathe in a different way. Some muscles are tensed. Some people clench their fists. Some people clench their jaws. Some have some, nervous tick of the shoulders. I have seen different movements when a person gets disturbed emotionally or mentally. The reaction is felt directly in the body. You can try this experiment and see how your body reacts to a certain thought, how your body reacts to a certain feeling, and gradually try to establish peace over there. So all these processes can occur when you learn to sit with yourself, be a little detached, go within, observe yourself through conscious breathing, observe your thoughts, and make a sheet where you can write down. And you can write down your thoughts and question yourself. Do I need to have these thoughts? Can I eliminate them? Can I erase them? If you are having certain disturbing feelings, you can again ask, do I need to keep them? Can I delete them? So by gradually eliminating the disturbances, you will move towards your health. And you will be able to protect yourself. Around our body, our subtle physical, there is a nervous envelope. And this nervous envelope has to remain very strong if we want to remain healthy at all times. Mother says that at first the illness penetrates this nervous envelope. Then it comes to the gross body. And this nervous envelope is made up of our psychological and our physiological makeup. We have to eat food, nourishing food. We have to sleep well. All that will make our physical healthy. And what does make our psychological makeup healthy? Nowadays we are talking a lot about psychological immunity during COVID times. What are the ingredients to protect our nervous envelope psychologically? What are the ingredients for protecting ourselves, increasing, boosting our psychological health and making our nervous envelope strong? The ingredients are peace, joy, cheerfulness, enthusiasm, hope, a sense of gratitude and love. Now when you have this at all times, I can assure you that you will remain strong and healthy. Your body will also remain strong and healthy. And one can sit with oneself again to observe, to introspect, to go within. You can understand when and how I got disturbed. You must go to the root of it. Sometimes we get just disturbed and we don't know. But then you have to say, well, I got disturbed, but I must sit. I must immediately sit down and ask, what happened? Why did I get disturbed? And there's an example. One sadhak had complained about stomachache and headache. So the mother said, just try to think, were you upset about something few days ago? And it really happened. Before the onset of this pain in the head, in the stomach, the sadhak was upset. Something had gone wrong. So most of the time, almost all the time, before the illness takes place in the body, the inner disturbances are created. Inner situation is as if created for the illness to take place. We all know that the viruses and the bacteria are always there in the atmosphere. But why only at some point of time they attack us? Because those are the times when we are vulnerable. And what makes us vulnerable? a continuous feeling of sadness, a continuous feeling of dejection, disappointment, frustration, anger, nervousness, restlessness, anxiety, fear. They make all the conditions favorable for all these to come and attack us. But in spite of all that, whatever happens outside, if you are living within, if you are vigilant and able to keep your peace, joy, enthusiasm, cheerfulness, sense of gratitude, nothing can come to you. Mother has said that you move around in a place of epidemic. It will not at all disturb you. So I think I have shared what I wanted to. Now I can take questions. What do you make of people who manifest bumps and bruises on their body from being psychically attacked by unseen aliens at night? Well, this is a topic that is belonging to the occult plane, and I think a person has to prepare oneself to protect oneself before sleeping, invoke the presence of the divine, because there must be certainly some part that is open to these negative forces. So during the daytime and especially during the night time, invoking the name of the divine helps one also from having nightmares and also from having such things. How do I practice sincerity? Well, do it every day. Keep up a routine and exactly do what you have to do. You should want it. You know, sincerity comes with an intensity of wanting it. These kind of practices that we discuss over here just cannot come by wishing casually that, well, one day I must be healthy and fine. You must want it truly and you must work for it truly, make a fixed routine and adhere to it. Do you discern between illness and injury? Yes, injury comes through most of the time being unaware in your physical movements when you are not conscious while walking, you are not conscious while driving, you can get injured. And illness also comes by not being aware of the inner processes, the inner harmony, the inner disturbances. So basically, it all boils down to being conscious, to become aware and to be in control. Sincerity just with the divine. Sincerity means to follow what you know and follow what you believe in. If I say that, well, I have faith in the mother, but do I sincerely follow what she says? So everything is interlinked. If you are following somebody, you have to sincerely, if you are having faith on the divine, you have to sincerely follow the instructions. And sincerity has to be backed up with regularity of practice. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Falguni Ji, for a beautiful talk. And are there any more doubts or questions? We still have 3-4 minutes left. If there are anything, there is anything more that we want to discuss, anyone wants to unmute and ask any question? So I believe there are no doubts and confusions. Thank you so much, Falguni ji, for the talk today. And
Thank
thank you
you.
everyone for listening so patiently and asking your questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Monica.
Thanks, Falguni.
Thank you, James.